Welcome to the 8th class of historical books. In this video, we will be looking the special issues in the book of Judges. The first issue we are going to address in this video is the Canaanite religion and the culture. The greatest problem of the people of Israel faced after the conquest of Canaan is the irresistible attraction of the religion and culture of Canaanites. Israel people really got attracted towards the culture and the practices and the religion of the Canaanites after the conquest. The land of Canaan was certainly a land of wealth, strength, and envy. It was a really fruitful land. The book of Judges portrays the picture of Israel pursuing after the Canaanites gods like Baal, Ashtaroth, and other gods. Judges chapter 2, Judges chapter 17, 19, all talking about that Israel people really pursuing after other god, which is against the law of Moses. So they really got attracted towards the culture and practices and the religion of the Canaanites. Scholars find three important aspects of these attractions of Israel people. Why Israel people got attracted towards the other culture of the Canaanites? There are three reasons, major reasons for that one. We will look what are these reasons. The first thing which attracted Israel people towards the Canaanite gods was because of the food and fertility of the Canaanites. Israel people knew that Canaan is a really a blessed land, and they thought that this blessing is came upon them as a result of the blessing of their gods. So they thought that only by pleasing these gods we will be also will be getting blessed. So they started to follow the rituals and the practices of the Canaanite gods or Canaanite culture. So that was the first thing which attracted the Israel people. The second major thing which Israel people got attracted towards Canaanite culture was because of the system of sacred prostitution. The sacred prostitutes of Baal were called as priestess. Making love with a religious prostitute was considered as an act of seeking Baal's mercy upon a person's business and land. So, by having a relationship with the prostitute in the temple, Canaanite people believed that the god Baal is blessing them and making fruitful his business and his productivity. Israel people were very much attracted towards this aspect of Canaanite culture. We know that this is against the law of Moses, but they got really attracted towards this practice of the Canaanites. The third major thing which attracted Israel people towards Canaanite culture and its practices was the wealth and the materialism found in the Canaanite culture. Canaan is a land which is really blessed and very wealthy, that really attracted the people of Israelites because they are coming from a barren land. And not only that, the materialism found in the culture of Canaanites really attracted Israel people. The Canaanite people having all the blessing and all the funds and all the enjoyments in this world itself. They are not having any heavenly thinking, heavenly thoughts, or heavenly goals in their mind. They are having all the pleasures in this world and they will die after that. So, this kind of an ideology really attracted Israel people more than the faith and the anticipation which they have to keep in their life in order to have a system of the law of Moses. So this is a real thing which really attracted the Israel people. With that, we will see some of the major gods of the Canaanites. The first person is Baal. Baal was the storm god, the most powerful of all Canaanite gods. People worshipped Baal for fertility. So Baal was the superpower god, the most powerful god among the all other Canaanite gods. People worshipped him to get the fertility, especially regarding agriculture and all kind of fertility. It is Baal was the god of all kind of this fertility. Another major god of the Canaanites was El. El was the head of Canaanite pantheon, but considered as weaker than Baal. El was a also a superpower god, but he was a weaker god than the Baal. So he is just a inferior god than Baal. Another god is Asherah. Asherah was the El's wife, the mother of the gods and goddesses of the sea. So she was the mother of all other gods in the Canaanite culture. Asherah was El's wife also. About this god, we can read in chapter 15 and 18 of the First Kings. Another god is Ashtoreth. Ashtoreth is the female fertility goddess connected with Baal. So Ashtoreth is a god which is connected with Baal, female god connected with Baal. We don't know exactly about more about this god, but she is connected with Baal. And another god is Anath. Anath was Baal's sister and wife, goddesses of love and war. This god, Anath, was at the same time sister and wife of the god Baal. So you can understand what kind of a culture it will be. The second major issue in the book of Judges is the identity of the angel of the Lord. Who is the angel of the Lord mentioned in the book of Judges? Out of nearly 59 appearances in the Old Testament, the term angel of the Lord appears 18 times in the book of Judges. It is mainly in the chapters 2, 5, 6, 13 of the book of Judges. We can see the mention about the angel of the Lord. So, what is the identity of the angel of the Lord in this book? There are three different views regarding the angel of the Lord. The first one is he is an angel with a special commission. He is a special angel with a special commission. The second view is that the momentary appearances of Yahweh himself. So, according to some theologians, the angel of the Lord is Yahweh himself. They have a theological term for that one that's called a theophany. The third view is that the appearances of the second person of the Trinity, that is Jesus Christ. So, according to some theologians, Jesus Christ himself came as the angel of the Lord in the book of Judges. So, the theological term for that one is Christophany. So, which one is right? We will look into that. Before looking into that, we will see some of the reasons why theologians believe this as either a theophany or Christophany. The first reason for the theologians to believe it is either theophany or Christophany is that the grammar. The grammar indicates that the definiteness of the angel, it is a definiteness of a definite person. So the grammar indicates that it's a firm language used in for talking about the angel of the Lord is giving us a clue. It is either theophany or Christophany. The second reason is the angel speak in the first person. Angel is not speaking as either as a messenger or a person who is carrying the message, but he is speaking in the first person. The third reason is looking at the angel is viewed as looking at Yahweh. So they are giving the same reverence which they used to give to Yahweh to the angel also. So this is also giving us a clue that it is either theophany or Christophany. The fourth reason is that many feared for their lives upon encountering the angel of the Lord. Many people feared that whether they will die after viewing the angel of the Lord or not. The fifth reason is the angel possesses the attributes similar to God. The language talking in a way that they give the same attributes which give to God to the angel also. The sixth reason is the angel is no longer appears after Jesus Christ arrives. In the New Testament, after the Jesus Christ accounts, we are not seeing any angelic appearances. So this all gives us a clue for the theologians to believe it is either theophany or Christophany. At the same time, we should understand that among the modern scholars, there are different views regarding the identity of the angel of the Lord. But one thing we all have to understand is we should give importance to the message of the angel than to the identity of the angel. So whenever we are coming across about any reference about the angel of the Lord, we have to give more predominance for the message he carries. The angel can be viewed as a special representative of God or the appearances of God the Father himself or the second person of Trinity. Anyway, we can view that. There are different views for the theologians, but we can choose which one we want. But we have to give predominance and importance for the message he carries. You may be thinking that which view I personally choose. According to my understanding, I would like to go with the majority of the biblical scholars and believe that this is the appearance of the second person of the Trinity. I have many proofs to believe that way. The first one is the angel carries the character and authority of the Lord. Exodus chapter 23, we can see that angel carries the authority of the Lord. Not only authority and character of the Lord. The term angel of the Lord and the Lord is interchangeably appears in Genesis chapter 18, especially Genesis chapter 18, verse 1 to 15. When we read, we can understand that the angel of the Lord and the word Lord is interchangeably used. The third reason is both Abraham and Joshua fell down to the ground as a sign of reverence to the angel, which indicates a form of worship in Genesis chapter 18, verse 2, and Joshua chapter 5, verse 14. There we can see both Abraham and Joshua fell to the ground whenever they came across with the angel of the Lord. It was kind of a worship. So we can believe that they may be giving the worship to the second person of Trinity. The last reason is the angel is referred as being sent by God, which indicates that he is not an appearance of God but someone equal to him in essence, authority, and character. The language, wherever it is talking about the angel of the Lord, he carries the same kind of an identity, someone who is equal to the Lord in essence and authority and character. That is the kind of language used to talk about the angel of the Lord. So this all giving us a clue for, especially for me, to believe that is the second person of the Trinity. The third major issue in the book of Judges is the Jephthah's war. We have already talked about the Jephthah's war, but we will look detailedly into that. This we can read in chapter 10, verse 6, and between 12, verse 7. It talks about a glorious victory of Israelites over Ammonites. The Spirit of the Lord descended upon Jephthah and delivered Israelites. But very soon the joy of the victory turns into the song of sorrow caused by the rash, ill-advised vow made by Jephthah prior to the battle. We know the story. Jephthah made a foolish vow, and that became a trouble for people, and there became a sorrow for the all people of Israel. That we can read in Judges chapter 11, verse 30 and 31. Jephthah made a vow to God that if you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever or whoever come out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering. This was a foolish vow Jephthah made. So the question we have to ask is, did Jephthah really intended a human sacrifice or to sacrifice his daughter? It was a real intention for Jephthah to do that kind of a sacrifice. Modern scholars differs in their replies. Some do believe that Jephthah was deteriorated by the morality and the religious practice of the Canaanites. So some believe that one, since Jephthah was a person who living with the Canaanites, he copied some of these kind of practices and vows. That is why he took that kind of a oath without consulting with God. That he really intended a human sacrifice. Hebrew pronoun can be translated whatever or whoever. The Hebrew pronoun whatever or whoever is giving us a clue that Jephthah really wanted to do that kind of a sacrifice, but he never thought that it is going to be his daughter, and he fulfilled it. He did what he has vowed, verse 39. So this all uh, tempting some of the theologians to believe that he did whatever he promised to the Lord. So some scholars believe that Jephthah really sacrificed his daughter. But my personal understanding of this passage is not like that. I don't believe that Jephthah really sacrificed his daughter, or God allowed him to sacrifice his daughter. I have many proofs to believe that way. The first one is the idea of human sacrifice is abominable in front of Lord, that we can read in Levitical chapter 18 verse 21, 20 verse 2, Jeremiah chapter 19 verse 5, Ezekiel chapter 20 verse 31. This all talking against the human sacrifice. The next reason is the text never explicitly stated about the Jephthah's action. This passage, when we read, we can understand that it is not explicitly telling that Jephthah sacrificed. It is an unclear language. Third reason is Jephthah's vow is only a rash vow or foolish vow made by him without proper thinking about the law of Moses. He never thought about the law of Moses, and he never thought about the identity and what kind of a God he is serving. God never demanded anything as such from him. It is a sign of unbelief, and God taught him a great lesson by making his daughter to appear before him. So it was just like happened to Abraham to sacrifice his own son. Just that kind of a examination, or God taught him a lesson to prove or to strengthen his belief upon God. Another reason is the woman did not mourn for his daughter, rather they mourned for her virginity. Possibly Jephthah might have dedicated her for the temple service. It is not anything kind of a temple prostitution in the Canadian culture, but as an assistant to the temple, just like modern day nuns, she might be gifted to the temple for all their lifetime as it for the temple service. So that may be the reason the woman may be crying for her virginity. The last reason is both the Old Testament and the New Testament comment Jephthah in a positive manner. First Samuel 12 verse 11, Hebrew chapter 11 verse 32. It's all talking about Jephthah in a positive way, not as a person who foolishly made a vow and sacrificed his daughter. So this all giving us a clue to think that Jephthah may not be doing that kind of a sacrifice, but some scholars really believe that he did that way. Whichever view, according to your personal understanding, you can choose, but I choose Jephthah didn't sacrifice his daughter. The fourth major issue in the book of Judges is the Spirit of the Lord. What is the identity of the Spirit of the Lord? The Spirit of the Lord plays a prominent role in the book of Judges, that we all know. It was under his power that several of the judges accomplished their task, and this demonstrated that the Lord was at work and ultimately responsible for the deliverance brought by the judge. So it is, even though the judges are acting in the front, actually God delivered his people. Our understanding of Trinity is complete as a result of progressive revelation. We should understand that our understanding of Trinity come as the result of progressive revelation, but we cannot impose that kind of a understanding on the mind of the Old Testament people, or we cannot read Old Testament like that. We should not force our own idea into the understanding of the original audience. Israel did view Spirit of the Lord as a separate person, but an extension of God's power and authority. So we should understand that Israel people never had a Trinitarian understanding. They had a different kind of understanding that it is an extension of God's power. Just like we are reading about the hand of the Lord, it is just an extension of the power of Yahweh. That is how they view about the Spirit of the Lord. That is how we can read in 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 15, Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 3 verse 14. It's all talking about the hand of the Lord. So the same way Israel also view the Spirit of the Lord. It is not as the Holy Spirit we are viewing in the New Testament era. So it was just the extension of God's power and authority. The fifth major issue or theme of the book of Judges is God's faithfulness. God is a central focus in the book of Judges, just like any other book of the Bible. God is a central focus of the book of Judges also. The cycle of the sin was continuous in the book, yet God was faithful in the lives of his people. When we read this book, we can understand that even though when the people of Israel were sinful, God was faithful to them. The grace of God is not a license to sin. One of the message this book is giving is that The grace of the Lord is not a license to continue in the sin. God's judgment was not imminent but certain. We should understand that God may be delaying his judgment. It may not be imminent, but we should understand that there is a certain judgment is coming. The last thing we should understand about this God's faithfulness is the patience and the long suffering of God should not be considered as that God will never mind the sin in the life of the people. So we should never think that God will always be patient upon the sin of his people. God's people are called to be called for the holy walk with God according to First Peter 1 verse 15 and 16. We know that we called to walk in the light, at the same time we called to walk with God. So God is always mindful about the sin. The judgment may not be imminent, but it is certain. Now we will look into the short summary of the book of Judges, chapter 1 and 2. Chapter 1 and 2 is talking about the degeneration of the people of Israel. After the death of Joshua, the tribes of Israel did not completely obey the Lord and drive out the wicked inhabitants of the land. As we read in the book of Judges, they failed to wipe out all other people groups from the land. The Canaanites practiced idolatry and immorality, and through intermarriage and careless spiritual standards and disobedience, the Israelites were soon confronted to the sinful ways of Canaanites. So, as we know, the people of Canaan were idolaters and immoral people. The Israel people also intermarried with them. Because of that, their spiritual standard became very careless and they became disobedient to God. And later, what we are seeing is that Israel was soon confronted to sinful ways of the Canaanites. So they started to practice whatever the things the other people, the Canaanites, practiced. So the chapter 1 and 2 is talking about the degeneration of the people of Israel. From chapter 3 to 16, there we see a 7 cycles of sin. There is a major 7 cycles of sin we can see from chapter 3 to 16. For over 300 years, Israel was trapped in a successive cycles of sin, deliverance, and again sin. Over and over, the story is repeated. As we know, this sin, deliverance, sin cycle repeated again and again almost for 300 years. There are 7 distinct cycles described when God raised up deliverers or judges to free the people from the sin and oppression. So, in these chapters, there is major 7 cycles of sin and a deliverer we can see. For a while, people would repent and enjoy freedom and peace, but soon they would lapse into sin again and became oppressed by their foreign nation. As we read in the book of Judges, they repented for a short time, but again they followed the same thing their forefathers did. God's mercy and long suffering and patience are displayed over and over again as He responded to Israel's cry for help and raised up judges like Gideon and Samson. But one thing we can see is that God was merciful to His people, because whenever they committed a sin, God sent oppressors among midst of them. But when they came back from their sin, God always raised up a leader to save them back. But even these great men did not live up to their spiritual potential, and the cycle continued. One thing we can observe is that even these great men like Gideon or Samson, they even failed to perform like a spiritual according to their spiritual potential. That is what we can see. One thing we can observe in the book of Judges. The last section from chapter 17 to 21 is talking about Israel's spiritual collapse. The last 5 chapters of Judges from an appendix of describing a various selected event which occurred during the period of Judges and which illustrated a incredibly low level to which Israel's spiritual condition had sunk. So we should understand that the last five chapters, it is not the continuous historical event, but the selected event in order to show how much Israel failed to observe what God commanded them, in which it is depicted the result of uncontrolled sin when each person is his own standard, walked upon his own standard of morality and right and wrong. The most important verse in this book can be Judges chapter 21, verse 25. In this passage, we can see that Israel people walked according to them. There is no moral standard for them. Every individual decided their standard. Judges chapter 21, verse 25 is telling that on those days there is no kings in Israel. Everyone walked according to him, according to the way he want to walk. So that kind of a spiritual decline, Israel people doomed into. That is what we can see from chapter 17 to 21. Before finishing our discussion on the book of Joshua, we will see what are the important theological lessons this book is giving us. First one is ungodly association with the world can easily corrupt the people of God. Ungodly association with any group of people can easily corrupt the people of God. Second thing is God's people have to keep them away from the sin. Third thing is disobedience to God causes a great damages. Disobedience to God causes great damage. God judges and disciplines his people with grace and long suffering and patience. That is the one thing we can observe, God's long suffering and patience. The last thing is God is compassionate to please of his people. Doing things according to our own moral standards and idea is will mislead us. That is also the message this book is giving us. God is always compassionate, but choosing the moral standard according to our ideas will definitely mislead us. So with this, we are ending our discussion on the book of Judges. I have given more details in my notes, especially in related to the Canaanite gods. It is for your personal reading and understanding. You have to read that. So I hope you all understood. If you have any doubt, you just message me in my WhatsApp number. So thank you for watching. See you in the next video.